In the peaceful village of Kamweli, nestled in the rolling hills of a far-off land, faith was the heartbeat of the community. The villagers lived simply, their homes made of mud and straw, but their spirits were rich with devotion. At the center of Kamweli stood a small, open-roofed shelter woven from palm leaves, known as the gathering place. It wasn't fancy, with no shiny decorations or tall steeples, but it was special because of Elder Juma, a man whose words could stir hearts and spark wonder. Elder Juma was no ordinary leader. His voice boomed like thunder during his gatherings, and people believed he had a gift from above. The sick felt better after his prayers, the weary found hope, and even travelers from distant towns came to see him. They didn't care about the plain shelter. They came for Juma's miracles. He had one strict rule. "Shut your eyes when I pray," he would say, his voice deep and serious. "If you peek, trouble will find you, and shadows will steal your light." The villagers, full of faith, obeyed without question. Even newcomers were told to follow this rule, and Juma's stern gaze made sure they did. One sunny day, a curious traveler named Kofi wandered into Kamweli. Kofi wasn't like the others. He didn't believe in miracles easily and was always asking questions. He'd heard stories about Elder Juma and decided to visit the gathering place, not to pray, but to see for himself. As the villagers gathered under the palm leaf roof, Juma began his prayers, his voice rising like a song. "Close your eyes," he commanded, but Kofi didn't. With one eye half open, he watched Juma closely. To his surprise, he saw Juma quietly gathering the gifts the villagers had brought, baskets of fruit, coins, and woven cloths. Juma moved quickly, almost nervously, as if afraid someone might notice. When the prayer ended, Juma's sharp eyes locked onto Kofi. The air grew heavy. "You, stranger!" Juma's voice cut through the silence. "You dared to peek during my prayer!" The villagers gasped, their eyes wide with fear. Kofi froze but nodded slowly. Juma raised his hands high. "Because you disobeyed, misfortune will follow you. By tomorrow, you'll wish you had listened." The crowd whispered nervously, some urging Kofi to beg for forgiveness. But Kofi stayed quiet, his heart full of doubt. The next morning, Kamweli buzzed with whispers. Everyone expected Kofi to be struck by some terrible fate, just as Elder Juma had warned. But to their shock, Kofi was seen walking through the village market, smiling and chatting with traders. He showed no signs of fear or harm. The villagers exchanged confused glances. Could Elder Juma be wrong? Their faith in him was strong, but Kofi's boldness planted tiny seeds of doubt. A week later, another visitor arrived, a young woman named Amina. She was curious like Kofi, but less cautious. During one of Juma's gatherings, as the villagers closed their eyes in prayer, Amina grew restless. Forgetting the rule, she opened her eyes. Instantly, Juma stopped praying and pointed at her. "You've defied the sacred words," he thundered. "From now on, your voice will be locked until you seek forgiveness." Amina tried to speak, but no words came out. Her hands flew to her throat, her face pale with panic. The villagers watched in horror, believing Juma's power had silenced her. Amina's silence became a story whispered in every home, a warning to never disobey Elder Juma. Juma's influence grew stronger. The villagers, though poor, brought him gifts, yams, goats, and even their last coins, hoping for blessings. Yet the gathering place remained a simple shelter, its roof leaking during rains. The needy in Kamweli, like widows and orphans, received no help from the riches Juma collected. Some began to wonder why, but fear of Juma's curses kept them quiet. In nearby villages, other elders warned against Juma. Test his gifts, they said. Not all wonders come from the heavens. But the people of Kamweli dismissed these warnings, believing Juma's rivals were just jealous. Despite Juma's hold, whispers of doubt grew. Some noticed his stories changed often, and others wondered why the gathering place never improved. One night, a group of young villagers decided to learn the truth. Under the moon's soft glow, they crept toward Juma's home, hidden behind thick mango trees. What they saw shocked them. Juma's house was filled with fine blankets, carved stools, and baskets overflowing with goods treasures that could only come from the villagers' gifts. The young villagers returned to Kamweli, their hearts heavy with what they'd seen. But fear of Juma's curses kept them silent. They knew speaking out could bring trouble. Meanwhile, Juma announced a great gathering at the gathering place, promising wonders like never before. The skies will open and blessings will flow, he declared. Word spread fast, and people from far and wide came to Kamweli, filling the village with hope and excitement. On the day of the gathering, the shelter was packed. Juma stood tall, his voice echoing through a wooden megaphone. "Today, you'll see miracles," he shouted. "The weary will dance, and broken hearts will mend. Even your old lanterns will glow again if you believe." The crowd cheered, some giggling at the mention of lanterns. Juma had a way of mixing humor with his words, and the people loved it. "Even the flies buzzing in your homes will leave if you shout praise loud enough," he added, and the crowd roared with laughter. As prayers began, people lined up for blessings. Juma touched a man who couldn't walk, and suddenly the man leaped up shouting, "I'm healed!" The crowd gasped in awe. The man, overjoyed, ran to fetch his sister, who had been unable to hear for years. He brought her to Juma, begging for a miracle, but Juma, in the middle of a loud speech, waved them off. "Patience," he said. "Miracles aren't like picking fruit from a tree. They need time." The crowd chuckled, but the man frowned. "You healed others right away," he said. "Why not my sister?" Juma smiled. "Every blessing has its moment. Take her home, and her ears will open soon." The man wasn't convinced, but led his sister away. That evening, he went to the market and saw something shocking. Juma sitting at a stall, laughing with the man who had been healed. They were counting coins, and Juma handed the man a bag of money. "You played your part well," Juma said. "They believe anything if you shout loud enough." The man hiding nearby felt his heart race. Juma's miracles were a trick. The man who overheard Juma's conversation was named Tunde. He felt angry but knew he needed proof to expose Juma. The villagers loved Juma too much to believe mere words. Around this time, a wise herbalist named Mama Zuri arrived in Kamweli. She'd heard of Juma's wonders but suspected they weren't pure. Mama Zuri was known for her knowledge of plants and animals, and she believed Juma's power came from trickery, not the heavens. During a crowded gathering, Mama Zuri watched closely. As Juma prayed and told everyone to close their eyes, she kept hers open. Behind Juma, she saw something strange, a large shadow moving like a living thing, almost as if it danced to his words. Mama Zuri whispered to herself, "This is no holy place." The next day, she visited Juma, pretending to seek a blessing. While he was distracted, she noticed a woven basket in the corner, and from it came a faint rustling sound. She didn't touch it, but knew something was hidden. Soon after, Juma's miracles began to fail. People who had been healed returned, saying their troubles were back. The man who could walk limped again, and others felt no better. Juma's voice grew shaky, his confidence fading. Then, during another gathering, a young boy named Sammy, too curious to obey, opened his eyes. He screamed, "There's a shadow behind Elder Juma!" The crowd stirred, some calling the boy foolish, but others felt a chill. The seeds of doubt grew stronger. One night, Tunde and Mama Zuri met secretly with a few villagers. They shared what they'd seen, Juma's riches, his lies, and the strange shadow. Together, they decided to act. At the next gathering, Mama Zuri stood and spoke. "Test the heart of those who lead you," she said. "True light needs no shadows." The villagers, once afraid, began to question Juma. His power weakened, and soon he left Kamweli, his tricks exposed. The gathering place became a true place of hope, led by honest hearts, and Kamweli learned to seek truth with open eyes.